"Stop that girl." Mitchell ran through the crowded streets, people yelling behind her. Her chest burned as she pushed past market stalls and leapt over puddles. She could feel her wig sliding off, her clothes soaked from the rain. Her heart pounded like a drum. She clutched the plastic bag close to her chest. Inside was nothing but a loaf of bread and a sachet of water. She didn't steal it. At least not exactly. She had begged, waited, and when no one helped, she took it. Out of hunger. Out of desperation. A hand grabbed her arm. She yanked away. Then, bang! She slipped, crashing to the ground, bruising her knees. The bag flew from her hands. A man rushed to her side before the angry store owner could reach her. "That's enough," the man shouted. "She's just a girl." Mitchell looked up into his face, warm brown eyes, messy curls, and a deep scar over his left eyebrow. "Are you okay?" he asked. She wanted to lie. To get up. To run. But her voice cracked. I'm hungry." Back to the main story. But before we continue, please do like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. The Adeboye mansion was quiet that night. Too quiet. Mitchell stood by the large glass window in her bedroom, staring out at the city lights. She had everything: the expensive silk robe wrapped around her, the sparkling chandelier above her, and a city of Lego stretched out below her like a painting. But none of it brought her peace. Earlier that day, her father had invited an important guest for dinner. Senator Adeboye and his son, Deo. The son was tall, polite, and dressed in designer clothes. He had everything that should make a man attractive. Except he didn't look at Mitchell like a person, he looked at her like a prize. And worse? Her father encouraged it. After dinner, Mitchell had passed by her father's office and overheard a conversation that made her heart sink. "She's stubborn, but she'll come around," her father said. "The marriage will secure the oil deal. She'll thank me later." "She won't say no," the senator replied with a chuckle. "She knows what's at stake." Mitchell stepped back quietly, her face pale. She wasn't a chess piece. She wasn't a tool. She was his daughter. She had always known she was born into privilege. Her father, Tunji Adeboye, was one of Nigeria's wealthiest men. He built his empire from the ground up, starting with real estate, then oil, then banking. People respected him. Feared him. Obeyed him. So did Mitchell, until now. She walked back to her room with slow, steady steps. Inside, she sat on her bed and thought for a long time. She remembered how growing up, she had been surrounded by nannies, tutors, and drivers, but very little love. Her mother had passed when she was just 9 years old. Since then, her father focused more on business than bonding. Mitchell had always wondered what it would be like to live like a normal girl. To walk in the sun without bodyguards. To ride a kiki with her hair blowing in the wind. To fall in love with someone who didn't care about her last name. That night, she made a decision. She wasn't going to marry Deo. She wasn't going to be part of another one of her father's business moves. She was going to disappear. Mitchell packed a small bag. She grabbed an old backpack from secondary school and stuffed in 3 t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, a scarf, and some money she had hidden over the years, 5,000 Nigerian nairas in notes. That was all she had. She pulled off her wig and braided her natural hair into small twists. She looked in the mirror. No jewelry. No makeup. No luxury. Just a girl with brown eyes, strong brows, and a determined heart. Around midnight, she sneaked out through the back door while the security guards were half asleep. The mansion's compound stretched like a castle, but Mitchell knew every corner. Every blind spot. She had planned this moment in her head many times. She just never thought she'd actually do it. Outside the gates, she walked for miles before finding a taxi driver who didn't recognize her. "Take me to Oshodi," she said. The man looked her over and nodded. "Nigerian naira 200. She handed him the money silently and got in. The next morning, Mitchell woke up on a wooden bench inside a church compound. She had found it just before dawn and begged the gatekeeper to let her rest. The man had agreed, offering her a corner near the children's hall. Her back hurt. Her stomach growled. But her heart felt strangely free. She spent the day walking around Oshodi Market. The noise, the smell, the rush of people, it was wild, chaotic, and nothing like her life back home. She bought a loaf of bread, ate half, and saved the rest for later. But the city was not kind to someone like her. People stared at her. Some laughed. Some ignored her. She quickly learned how to blend in, tied her scarf tightly, avoided eye contact, and learned how to say little. When someone asked her name, she said, Ella. It was close enough to her real name, but far enough to protect her. She began sleeping in crowded shelters and washing her clothes by hand. She offered to help vendors clean their stalls in exchange for leftover food. Some helped her. Others chased her away. There were nights she cried, missing her bed, her books, even her cold, quiet father. But she reminded herself why she was here. She wanted to meet someone who saw her, not her bank account, not her status, just Mitchell. She started writing in a small notebook she carried everywhere. She wrote about her journey, about the people she met, and the strange peace she felt being unknown. Then one day, she ran out of food. For hours, she begged, but no one gave her anything. So when she saw a woman walk away from her stall, leaving bread unattended, she waited. She waited 5 long minutes. No one came back. Her stomach was in knots. Her mouth dry. So, she took it. The moment her fingers touched the loaf, a man shouted, "Thief!" That's when she ran. And that's when she crashed into Damilare. Mitchell sat on the cold pavement, legs trembling, eyes wide in shock. The man who helped her stood in front of the angry bread vendor like a shield. "Leave her alone, Oga," the man said calmly but firmly. "She's not a thief. She just looks hungry." The vendor snorted. "So because she's hungry, she should steal? Is that how we behave in this market?" "I'll pay for the bread," the man replied, pulling out some naira notes from his wet jeans. "Here. Keep the change." Grumbling, the vendor grabbed the money and walked off, muttering insults under his breath. Mitchell was still frozen on the ground, rain dripping from her face, arms wrapped tightly around her bag. Her eyes stayed fixed on the stranger. He crouched beside her. "You all right?" She nodded slowly. Her lips parted, but no words came out. He noticed the shake in her hands. "You're cold. Hungry too, right?" She gave a slight nod. Without asking further, he stood up and held out his hand. "Come on." Mitchell stared at the hand for a few seconds before reaching for it. His grip was firm but gentle, and he pulled her to her feet with ease. They walked down the alley together in silence. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the sky was still heavy and gray. Mitchell didn't know where they were going, but for some reason, she didn't feel afraid. The man led her to a nearby shop that sold snacks, noodles, and soft drinks. A small kiosk with wooden benches and a woman stirring stew behind a smoky pot. "Make hot rice and beans for her," he said to the woman. "Plenty oil. An egg." He turned to Mitchell. "Sit." She hesitated, but her stomach made the decision for her. She sat down, folding her arms and legs tightly, unsure of how to act. He sat beside her. "I'm Damilare," he said. "People call me Dare for short." She looked at him, blinking. "Ella," she lied again, her voice low. He smiled. "Nice to meet you, Ella." The woman brought her the food in a plastic plate. The aroma hit her hard, and without shame, Mitchell dug in. She ate like someone who hadn't seen proper food in days. Which was true. Damilare didn't say a word. He just watched her quietly, letting her eat in peace. Only when she had scraped the last grain off the plate did he speak again. "Do you have a place to stay tonight?" She paused, unsure if she should lie again. "I've been sleeping at a church near the bus park." But they only let people in when it rains. Damilare nodded. There's a shelter not far from here. I volunteer there sometimes. It's safe. They have beds, bathrooms, and food. If you want, I can walk you there. Mitchell looked at him. He didn't look like the rich boys she grew up with. He wore a plain shirt, no watch, no chains. His shoes were dusty. But there was something kind about his eyes, steady and warm. Why are you helping me? She asked quietly. Damilare shrugged. Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. That's how we survive in this city. One good deed at a time. They walked for almost 20 minutes. Damilare held an umbrella over both of them, keeping her close so she wouldn't get wet again. Along the way, Mitchell asked, "Do you work at the shelter?" "Not officially," he said. "I used to run a small tech company, but I left it after my younger brother got killed in a robbery." Mitchell looked at him, surprised. "I'm sorry." He nodded. "Thanks. I've seen how easy it is to fall through the cracks. One minute you have everything. The next, you're on the street. So now I try to help, especially kids with nowhere to go." He glanced at her. "You're not a kid, though. You look about, 23? "Close," Mitchell said. She didn't want to say more. When they reached the shelter, it looked old but neat. A gated compound with peeling paint, plastic chairs stacked in one corner, and clothes hanging on ropes across the yard. A young woman came out. "Dare. You brought someone?" Damilare nodded. "She needs a place to stay. Just for the night." The woman smiled at Mitchell. "Come in, sister. You're welcome." Mitchell followed them inside. The place was simple, bunk beds, mosquito nets, and a single fan buzzing in the corner. But it was dry. And it felt safe. Over the next few days, Mitchell stayed at the shelter. She kept her head down, helped with chores, and barely spoke unless she had to. But Damilare kept checking in. He brought her water, books, even a hoodie when the night got too cold. "Still here, Ella," he'd tease. "Didn't run off back to the streets?" She would smile faintly and shake her head. Something about his presence made her feel lighter. They began talking more. At first it was just little things, the weather, the food, funny things the children at the shelter did. But soon, their conversations grew deeper. One night, they sat on the shelter rooftop, the city lights glowing below them. Damilare passed her a warm bottle of malt drink. "So what's your story?" he asked. "You don't look like most people I meet out here." Mitchell hesitated. She had practiced her story so many times, that she was orphaned young, that she had been kicked out by relatives, that she was trying to survive. But this time, she just said, "I needed to disappear for a while." He looked at her, eyebrows raised. "Disappear from what?" She smiled, eyes far away. "A life that wasn't mine." He didn't push. Instead, he nodded. "Sometimes starting over is the bravest thing you can do." Damilare became her safe space. He wasn't trying to impress her. He wasn't trying to use her. He didn't know about the mansions, the driver, or the private school in England. He just liked Ella. And she started to like him. The way he treated people with kindness, the way he laughed with the children at the shelter, the way he listened when others talked, it all touched her in ways she didn't expect. One day, she helped him repair a broken bookshelf. As they struggled with a loose nail, their hands touched. For a second, they both froze. Mitchell pulled away quickly, but Damilare just smiled. "Sorry." She bit her lip. "It's okay." But as the days turned into weeks, something inside Mitchell began to crack. She was living a lie. Every time Damilare looked at her, every time he called her Ella, she felt a sting in her chest. How could he ever trust her if he knew the truth? And worse, what if he only liked her because he thought she was poor, struggling, ordinary? What if he found out who she really was and walked away? Mitchell didn't know what to do. So she did nothing. She kept the secret buried. Even as her heart leaned closer to him. Even as she started imagining what it would be like to stay here, with him, forever. But deep down, she knew it couldn't last. Secrets have a way of rising to the surface, no matter how carefully you bury them.